Welcome to Simply Good, Cooking with Rebecca. Today I'm making homemade lemon meringue pie. This is a pie from scratch from my grandmother's recipe. I'm going to start with the crust. I've pre-measured my ingredients. I like to mix my crust in a food processor. You can certainly cut in your pastry dough by hand if you prefer to do it that way. This is 1 cup of just all-purpose flour, a half cup of either butter, margarine, or Crisco. I'm using Crisco. That's what my grandmother always used. And I just cut it into chunks and kind of so it's not 1 half cup lump. Okay, so you put your Crisco in and then you're going to combine your fat with the flour by pulsing a couple times. After you have the Crisco and the flour combined into crumb consistency, you want to add just a pinch of salt and a pinch of baking powder. And then you're going to add the water with the food processor running. It's a 1/4 cup of water while the food processor runs. You want to be careful to not over-mix your pie dough or it will be tough. So just until it's combined. Just want to mix till it's just combined. And then I've prepared a lightly floured surface to dump my pie dough onto to roll it out. Alright, you dump your pie crust out and then you just roll it out to the size of the pie pan. I'm using a 9-inch pie plate. Okay, that looks about perfect. So I like to fold my crust. If it tears a little bit, that's okay. You can press it back together in the plate. Fold it into quarters very gently. So once you've placed your crust into your pie plate, if you have any trouble getting it in there, you can just if it tears, just mold it back in and no one will see the underside of the crust. And then trim off if you have any excess around your edges. I just use a sharp knife. And then my sister's favorite part is you can roll out any excess dough and bake it with the pie crust in the oven with cinnamon sugar on top. After your crust is in your plate, you want to just prick it with a fork so it doesn't bubble. Alright, now our pie dough is ready to go into the oven. This is a pre-baked or blind-baked crust. So you want to cover it with foil so it doesn't brown too much. If you can get foil out of your container. So you just press your foil into your pie crust, and then if you have pie weights, you can definitely use those. I'm just using some beans as weights. They'll keep the crust from getting bubbles and uneven. Once you've used your beans, you can use them over and over as pie weights, but don't cook with them. The baking you can't use them as beans anymore. Okay, so this goes into a 425-degree oven for 8 to 10 minutes. Okay, our pie is baking and now we're going to get started on the lemon filling or lemon curd. We're going to be using 3 eggs, the 3 yolks for the lemon curd and the 3 whites for the meringue filling. Let's just separate those out. With your eggs separated, you can just set your whites aside for use later. You want to just gently whisk your yolks until they're just ever so slightly foamy and just a little bit aerated. Okay, just want some air bubbles on the top there. And then we're going to move to the stove. Okay, for the lemon curd, I have all my ingredients pre-measured. I'm going to start with 1.5 cups of sugar. You want to do this in a heavy saucepan on the stove. So that was 1.5 cups of just granulated sugar, 7 tablespoons of cornstarch, 1/4 teaspoon of salt, and I like to give that a quick stir just to kind of combine it, sugar with the cornstarch. And then 1.5 cups of hot water. I'm just using hot tap water. And you're going to cook that over medium-high heat, stirring constantly for 6 to 8 minutes until it's thickened and clear. So once your cornstarch and sugar mixture has thickened, you want to remove that from the heat. Turn your heat off. And then you're going to do what's called tempering your egg yolks. You're going to add about 1/4 cup of your hot mixture to your eggs and stir that together. This is so you don't get scrambled eggs. You warm your eggs up slowly. So you add some of the hot mixture, and then you add the warmed up egg mixture back into the pot. This gets stirred together. And then this is going to cook on low for 6 minutes. And you want to continue to stir it pretty constantly. So once your 6 minutes are up, you're going to again turn your heat off, and you're going to stir in 1/2 cup of lemon juice and 2 tablespoons of butter that I've just cut into four pieces. Then that just gets stirred together, and once it's thoroughly combined, you just set it aside to cool slightly while you make your meringue. Alright, it's time to make our meringue. Our pie crust and our lemon filling are cooling. For the meringue, you're just going to mix your 3 egg whites from earlier. I like to do this in my stand mixer, just saves your arm a little bit, and certainly do it with a hand mixer. And to the eggs, we're going to add 1 teaspoon of fresh squeezed lemon juice. Then we're just going to beat these until they're frothy. Once your egg whites are nice and frothy, you're going to add 6 tablespoons of sugar, 1 tablespoon at a time. So you'll turn on your mixer and just add 1 until it's incorporated. And you're going to beat that until smooth, glossy peaks form. Alright, one way to tell if your peaks are firm using a stand mixer or hand beater, if you just stick it in, pull it up, it should curl over but not fall. So you have a nice firm peak. So we now have our 3 elements, our crust, our filling, and the meringue topping. We just put them all together. First you put your lemon curd into your pie crust. So you add your meringue. You want to spoon it nice and gently so that you don't deflate your egg whites. And then I like to make some peaks with my spatula, just because those will brown up and it'll look nice. Okay, so your pie just needs to go in the oven now, 400 degrees for 7 to 10 minutes, or until just the peaks are nice and brown. And that completes our homemade lemon meringue pie. It's made completely from scratch, makes a great extra special dessert. It has a perfect mix of tang and sweetness. It's simply good.